large group breaking through the fence surrounding the statue of former President Andrew Jackson.
Will you shut up, man? Listen.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Will Donald Trump go to prison? You may have asked yourself that question at least one time this week. It's the latest buzz, the latest chatter. It's all through the left stream media. It's all over social media like shitter, I mean Twitter, like fuckbook, I mean Facebook. It's everywhere. The celebrity elite power structure is foaming at the mouth at the very idea and possibility of bringing criminal charges against President Trump. Right now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to impeach him. They're trying to invoke the 25th Amendment. So far, none of that's going to happen. I mean, literally, he's got about 13 days left, and he's out of there. So what's the point in wasting your money, my money, and all that for something that is just overkill? Regardless of what you think about the outcome of this election, was there voter fraud? Was there evidence of voter fraud, irregularities, all these different things? Yes. If you've done your homework and you've done the research, you'll find that there's a lot of strangeness going on. Can I prove it? No, because I don't have that kind of a clearance. But would I be willing to bet my money on it? Absolutely. A lot of the things and the actions of these polling stations and places where you should have just let the observers in if you had nothing to hide. But they didn't. So that's what kicked all this off. You got to understand that every action has a reaction, regardless of what it is. Case in point, the grounds for which most of these people on the left are saying that Donald Trump needs to be arrested for high treason because they say that he incited and stirred up his own base in order to do that very thing on Wednesday. And what did they do? Not all of them, but a small group of pro-Trumpers stormed into the rotunda of Congress, ran up into the Senate. Somebody was killed on the spot. They were up in there with all these senators and representatives and all their fist-fucking, blood-drinking, circle-jerking ways were scrambling and running as if fucking Pompeii was erupting. Or as if the country was sinking into the ocean. They were running for their lives. And then afterwards, they were calling it an outrage, treason, insurrection, rebellion. All these words that they're using and they're still using. Was it really, though? Ask yourself that question. Somebody like me that is detached from both sides, see the social issues of both sides. One side, they have their points while the other one has theirs. All summer long, people have been burning the whole fucking country to the ground. I've said this a million times, you've heard it. Burning down stores, burning the whole block down. They've stormed up into Washington, pulled statues of Andrew Jackson down and various other ones, defaced I don't know how many different monuments, set fire to a courthouse, all these things, and not one single person ever said that that was treason. But of course, we're dealing with Donald Trump and the alternate reality of how they see everything. So to them, Donald Trump is Skeletor. He's Cobra Commander. He's Dr. Evil in the flesh. He's the devil himself. He's the Antichrist. He's all of these things in their eyes. But see how Twitter fucked up is that they pulled down his post that he said, let's do a peaceful march protest on Washington, D.C. Please go home in peace and remember we're the party of law and order. That was what was in the tweet. They took that down. And why do you think they took that down? They took it down because now it doesn't even exist. So there's no going back on that one. But do they have the evidence to have him convicted? There's always an arrest. Whether somebody actually physically is incarcerated or not, I don't believe for 1 second that Donald Trump will ever spend a day in jail. And I'll break it down to you why. If you remember in 2016, that was one of the slogans of the Trump campaign. Lock her up regarding Hillary Clinton. There is insurmountable evidence to prove that Hillary Clinton is a criminal. She's gotten people killed. She's had people killed. It was her and her husband that was involved in the Whitewater controversy. of purchasing real estate and doing all these other shady wheeling and dealings with McDougal's. Some of you may not be old enough to remember that. How about Obama when he was in there? How about the Fast and Furious? How about over, 500 and something drone strikes that killed countless civilians all over the world? There's some places in some countries that are calling Obama a war criminal. How about George W. Bush? John Ashcroft put in the Patriot Act, and the government was spying on you and me ever since because of 9/11. Right now, the grounds that these people are using is that Donald Trump kicked that off. He basically led the charge into the Senate, and it was a coup attempt. It doesn't really have much legs, if you think about it. And I honestly believe that come January 21st, who knows what's going to happen as far as the backlash, the protests, or anything like that. But I don't believe that Donald Trump will ever spend a day in jail. Because like I mentioned with Hillary Clinton, Trump really did want to lock her up. But his own advisors, of which they were probably friends of Hillary's, because his own team was against him since the beginning. Anybody that ever brought into the cabinet there was something wrong, some controversy, they were leaking information out to people. But they all told them that if you try to go after Hillary with criminal charges, you're going to create a backlash in this country that's like nobody has ever seen. Something quite similar to the George Floyd protests and riots that were happening all over this country all summer long. So he decided not to move forward with pressing charges against Hillary Clinton, but that didn't stop that side from constantly going after Trump day in and day out. That's all you ever heard on the media. Trump, 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 Trump. Russiagate, the Mueller report, all this shit. People are saying, oh, there was evidence, but William Barr wouldn't let it out. There was no evidence. Robert Mueller simply said that he can't prove nor deny that there was any kind of obstruction. But what is obstruction? That's not the same thing as actually colluding with a foreign government in order to win an election. And that was the original charge. But is any president in the history of this country's hands really clean from crimes or wrongdoing? I mean, think of what they did in the 1800s, in the expansion west. How about Harry Truman? Harry Truman dropped 2 atom bombs on civilian targets. John F. Kennedy, caught up in all kinds of weird stuff. Richard Nixon, Watergate. Jimmy Carter in botching the Iran hostage situation. Ronald Reagan and the Contras. George H.W. Bush with the Contras and the same things. Bill Clinton and Whitewater. George W. with the spying. Barack Obama with the drone strikes. Donald Trump with whatever this is that he's supposedly guilty of. So if they do try to arrest him, here's what you can expect. There's going to be massive protests. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to get up. And it's going to make Wednesday look like a mosh pit at a Tool concert. Pretty much like that. It'll kick off into something that is so explosive that they will not be able to put the fires out. I do honestly believe that on January 21st, they're going to move on. They're going to start focusing more on their agenda. They feel they've won. They're emboldened. They're empowered by the Georgia runoff. The fact that it's a 50-50 split in the Senate with Camel Joe Kamala being the tiebreaker. They still have the majority in the House. Now they have Corn Pop in the White House. I don't think they're going to be focusing too much on Donald Trump after that. I don't think there's going to be any kind of hearings or anything. You definitely ain't going to hear about any investigations into election irregularities. But let's say, for example, that Donald Trump does go to prison. What would he expect? Where would he go? How much time would he do? Coming from somebody who was incarcerated once upon a time, I could talk to you in a little detail about what would happen if he was convicted of treason. Where would he go? Where would he do his time? Well, aside from the criminal charges that he's looking at in New York, of which ain't going to go anywhere either, by the way. Like I said, a lot of this is going to go away. But hypothetically speaking, what if Donald Trump gets arrested? Well, right off the bat, he's going to be detained in a very high security federal facility. They may keep him in ADX and then transport him each different time when he's going to his court hearings. They may keep him in FCC Atlanta. They may keep him in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn in New York. Nobody really knows where they keep him. They might even keep him at Guantanamo Bay. It's unprecedented because there's never been a president that's ever been arrested and taken into custody, although many of them should have been. I can name a few right off the bat, and a couple of them are very recent. If you're using drone strikes to kill civilian targets, if you're having people killed in real estate scams, if you're selling weapons to the enemy and letting drugs flow through the country as a result, yeah, I would say that you're probably pretty much a criminal. But what did Donald Trump really do? I've never really been clear or understood what it's about. The obstruction, every president obstructs. Look at all the obstruction that Hillary did when she was the Secretary of State. That should tell you right there. But let's say, for example, he gets arrested. You've seen all the memes of him with his mug shots in the orange smock, the orange jumpsuits and all that. Spending his days locked up in a no human contact situation. So if he was convicted, I could guarantee you that he would be one of the most famous people in the ADX. Nobody would ever see him. Nobody would have any contact with him. And for somebody like Donald Trump, who's a very extroverted, social butterfly, it would kill him. I think the fact that they took his Twitter account from him, don't be surprised if he starts getting health problems and he starts, going downhill from there. Because he has to be a part of the spotlight. He has to be out there. There's other ways that he can make a bigger presence for himself. I mean, he could develop his own search engine like Google and have all the same services and options that Google has, but doesn't censor anybody. He could start his own media channel, all that stuff. But the social butterfly that he is, to spend the rest of his life in the ADX, where people like Ted Kaczynski's at, many different big homies from Miami, the Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family, Gangster Disciples, all of them. Terrible Thompson, all of them were up in there. Chapo Guzman's in there. Shit, he could be in the cell right next to Chapo. You never know. They might become good vent buddies, talking through the vent. But I believe that if that happened to Donald Trump, that he would probably die within a couple of years. It would just be too much for him. Because this man moves according towards the attention, all the attention that's on him. But let's say, for example, they don't put him in the ADX. Let's say they send him to a low, or they send him to USP. Whose car would he run with? Would he click up with the ABs? Would he click up with the mafia? I could promise you that nobody would ever even risk going after him, not like Whitey Bulger or anything. Trump would be just fine in the federal prison system. Because with the First Step Act and also commuting and pardoning people's sentences, regular people, not famous people that were involved in the celebrity elite, fist-fucking, blood-drinking, circle-jerking weirdo circles, but actual regular people like Alice Marie Johnson, whatnot, he's giving them pardons. With a lot of the people that I talk to in prison, actually, Trump is actually kind of a popular guy in there. He wouldn't have any problems. But he won't be able to eat at McDonald's anymore. He could catch up on tennis. He could watch Fox News on the news TV for as long as he wants. He can make as many phone calls as he wants to make. As long as he has the money on his account, he can send as many emails as he wants. But for the most part, nothing would happen to him. But how much time would he get? Well, if we're talking about high treason, that could actually be a death penalty case. You could actually be killed for high treason. But what grounds do they have for that? They don't really have any grounds. So what I think is going to happen is you're going to continue to hear all this chatter because Donald Trump generates clout for all these people in the media. I mean, it's going to be pretty boring in the next 4 years listening to Corn Pop forget what his own name is and forget who's even the vice president. The bigger news will come later when Corn Pop is basically 25th Amendment himself. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kamala Harris is the president. If you don't understand that by now, then you never will. But all this buzz about Donald Trump will go away real soon. Nothing's going to happen to him. And we're going to move on and we're going to see what this new agenda is all about. Mark my words, it's happening. Tune in for the next one.